Hey everyone, J-Rod Plays here, and this is going to be my video talking about the Season of the Wish and kind of breaking down some of the new information that we picked up with Season of the Wish and how it's going to probably go for us, kind of my expectation, my guess on how we're going to do the seasonal loop and what the story is going to be like for next season, especially based on this new information and a couple of other videos that have come out that have said, okay, yeah, this is probably shaping up to be exactly this. There is some leaks out there. I don't want to specifically go over any of the pastebin leaks because they're not confirmed, but I do think that there is some validity in the ideas wrapping around the idea of the Dreaming City and the way things are going with the Dreaming City. Obviously, it's going to be the Dreaming City that we're going to be in next season, and so let's jump right into it. First, let's start off with what the breaking news or breaking information was. So there was a image that was picked up based on the next season preview showing Mara standing next to an Ahamkara, and the Ahamkara is kind of glowy-like, looks kind of like a ghost, and that made us think or led us to believe as a community, the people that kind of speculate on Reddit, is that that's a projection. And when a tooltip was looked at, you can see it says Marsov is speaking to Riven, and so what ended up happening, or what's going to actually probably go down, is that Riven's heart that we got at the end of the raid was preserved in such a way that we can converse with Riven. And what we're seeing is some type of a projection of Riven that Marsov is then talking to us with. But also, in some of the voice acting, the voice was a little distorted, kind of how the voice would be distorted when there was like layered voices talking, with Mars Sov speaking as well in one of the scenes, and that could actually be Riven talking to us with kind of that Mars Sov voice distortion. And so we'll probably be working with Riven. I thought we would be working with the actual Wish Dragon that hatched, or the corrupted one as well. Same thing that Mara has an egg of as well, because there's two eggs. There's the egg Mara has, and there's the egg that we found. And so we're probably not going to get the Ahamkara to hatch right away, which I was hoping we would. We're probably going to end up using the knowledge that Riven has built up over the years to figure out a way to hatch this egg and also then make a proper wish that's going to work without some type of a monkey's paw effect, a negative effect. If you don't know anything about the Ahamkara and the fact that they're wish dragons, the Ahamkara themselves are very powerful beings that can grant wishes to other beings, especially they're in kind of conjunction with how powerful that being is. So the more powerful being, the more effective the wish, or the more powerful the wish can be. And if you wish it directly to the Ahamkara and you leave it kind of open ended, they tend to fill it, the open end, with a lot of negative consequences. And it's something that I don't know if it's they get joy out of it, or if it's just how they are in their nature. They're just a little bit mischievous in nature. But essentially, you have to always be careful because your wishes are double edged swords with the Ahamkaras. And that's why the wish wall was created. The wish wall was created to make sure that there was like zero room in the wish for the Ahamkara to take interpretation and take a little bit of their own desire and input that to the point where we have this negative consequence that they get this kick out of. And so, what we're going to probably be doing for this 12 weeks, right, or more, depending on if there's a delay or not, is essentially each week using the wish wall to put in a combination that starts us on our adventure, that gets us into whatever battleground or activity that we have coming next season, so that we can then get through that, come back in, somehow interact with it, like kind of how we did the deck of cards last season, and interact with the area. And each week we're going to build and build and build until we have that perfect wish that's going to be ready for when the dragon hatches. There was even that possibility that the Nine is maybe going to be making a little bit of a comeback next season. That the Nine themselves have the power to kill all the dragons, and they conspire to remove some of the Wish Dragons during the Great Hunt. And so, because of that, we may be able to use the beneficial Nine power. I can't think it's like four of them, if I remember correctly, that were on our side, while the other five were antagonists to us, were actively against us. And I believe the four plus the Guardian plus Mara probably can get together a little bit of power and say that's enough for us to get it done, to where we have these 4-9 that are on our side, plus us, and everybody putting their power into the wish. Probably going to make it to where that hole that's in the Traveler is passable by either a certain amount of people, certain type of people, maybe Guardians only. Not sure how it's going to be specifically done, but essentially that's going to get us into the Pale Heart without being destroyed. Like, I believe Joxer is the name of the Guardian that went in there, that you see get disintegrated as you try to fly in there. So that's very likely going to be the game loop. Is you get in there, you use the wish wall probably to start the encounters up, then you from there go into whatever the activity is, come back, deposit whatever we got to deposit, build that power, work that wish down, all while doing it through Ribbon's kind of designs. And maybe there's like a little bit of a wish dragon kind of a trick in there at some point, putting us into danger, which would be nice. But I don't want to ask too much of the writers, to get it to where we have like a really kind of interesting back and forth. Always got to be on your toes relationship with this projection of Riven, and also same thing with Mara too. You never know what Mara's going to send us into. But if they do that, then great, amazing. Now that's the gameplay loop. Obviously, we're going to get the weapons probably through the wish wall room setup as well. I don't know if we're going to have our own wish wall in the helm. That would be actually sick if we have our own wish wall in the helm and we don't have to go into the raid every single time to interact with the wish wall. The next thing that I'm looking at is probably the dungeon. So it's clear that we're going to be going into the Dreaming City, and so I imagine that we're going to be finally dealing with, since we have that 15th wish, the Dreaming City curse. That means that the dungeon is probably going to be the Shattered Throne again. But based on the way that Bungie does things, we're probably going to find a way to like decorrupt the Shattered Throne, or navigate a new section of the Shattered Throne that maybe was never corrupted in the first place. But decorrupting the Shattered Throne little by little sounds more like it, kind of restoring Maricena, which is the throne world that Marisov had, and giving us kind of a foothold to fight from. That would be a cool little side note. I mean, I don't like that they're reusing stuff if we do have to reuse it, but I do like if they took it and they made it transform into this new thing, because that's different, right? That's not just reusing assets. Like, you're going back into this place, but as you make progress, you start to see it change, and it starts to change, and so then we have this cool little setup where maybe we could do the dungeon forwards and backwards. If we get all the way to the end, to the area where we would normally have fighting dueling Karu, and then restore it, and now we're at the top of this tower, and we got to fight all the way back into the restored area through and back to the beginning again, where we would fight the final boss, right as we're getting out of the area, and who knows what that final boss could be. But that sounds like a really cool dungeon if they could do something like that. And I hope that it's long enough to be like Ghost of the Deep, but I hope that it's not long in the sense of long because the boss health pools are ridiculous, because that was a problem when you were trying to solo flawless, was that it wasn't necessarily so hard. It was just the boss took forever to fall down. You just had to go over and over and over again, and that just led to more and more opportunities for something bad to happen, or for you to get disconnected by an error code. Knowing the way that Bungie's systems are and the way that the game is, you always have that looming threat of an error code. Well, the longer you're in the boss fight, the longer you have a chance for the error code to remove and ruin your run. So that's my worry. There is that they have the same type of Ghost of the Deep style setup, and Shattered Throne itself can be kind of a shortest dungeon if you're fast. And so hopefully they find ways to make the dungeon a little bit longer, make it a little bit more engaging, should I say, and get it to where we can actually clear up the corruption, come back through, and then that should give Mara a little bit of a power boost, hopefully, as well. The new Wish armor is another thing that I'm looking forward to. That's kind of one of the last things that I want to touch on. I don't want to make this video too long. Is that the new Wish armor is going to increase the potency of a lot of the new builds that we can do. Next season is going to be Solar Stasis, and the new armor is going to augment some of those abilities, or make them happen with more frequency, or give them more potency. And I really do like the idea that the armor can do that. I think that it's not a good thing that you have to use that new armor. I wish there was something that we could apply to our current armor that we grinded out that's got better stats. But I understand that Bungie's trying to kind of get us off of some of the armor that's just overpowered that we have with the way they set up the artifice armor. Although again, I feel like we should be able to just like slot our armor with some type of a like an additional armor slot that allows us to augment it and to give us those boosted things, versus having to go out and get 5 pieces of good rolled armor that we would have to then essentially downgrade to get this wish build. but I do want to see how they turn out. I am interested in seeing how the builds turn out, and that we may not need those additional stats because the armor themselves augment these additional abilities that we can have, that these additional builds that we have, to the point where it doesn't really matter if we've got 100, 100, 100, even if we only have like 70, 70, 70, and then we use some of the armor mods to get to the hundreds, and then on top of that had the new changes kind of remove some of the best build type things like impact induction and stuff like that. Impact induction, bolstering detonation, those things got nerfed, and so because they got nerfed, there's a little bit less emphasis on it, which means we're going to have a little bit more emphasis on maybe using these armor sets to augment that. But again, I just hate that we have to use the armor sets only, and that we can't take our current armor and just augment them with some type of droppable additional augment that we could get by doing the seasonal activity. That would be, to me, the best way to do it. So that's going to be kind of what we're looking forward to, what I'm looking forward to next season. Cool Dreaming City weapons, cool Dreaming City experience, 15th Wish, and the ability to end the curse of the Dreaming City by going into the Shattered Throne and then restoring it back to its former glory. Like that all together would be really awesome. And then, of course, getting that wish and getting that final wish dragon hatched and having our very own Ahamkara that we can take into the Dreaming City, that Ahamkara that would allow us to then not only cleanse it, get it connected back to the distributary properly, which is where the Awoken come from, and then maybe get power from the distributary Awoken to help us also get into the uh, hole in the Traveler, into the pale heart of the Traveler, kind of Infinity War style, right? Everybody coming together, and maybe even getting down to the bottom of the nine, who the nine originally what the nine, should I say, originally are out in the game, because it's in the lore. It's just not out in the game for everybody to see. They're still kind of mysterious. And then the nine themselves need their avatar. And I don't think necessarily I touched on it in any of my videos, but I believe in one of the Yang Li Wei lore pieces, there were like nine passengers missing from the Yang Li Wei on the other side of the collision between the light and the dark that turned Mara into what she is. And I think that they included that somewhere in there. And if that's the case, and I'm not dreaming that up, then maybe the nine themselves were trying to reach out and grab avatars for themselves so that they can then interact with us, similar to how they did the Cocytus Gate. I don't know if you're familiar with the Cocytus Gate, but there was a gate that was found that where life forms were being pushed through, and they were like dying as they were coming through, and it was essentially the nine experimenting with how they could get a life form that they could control or that they could use to communicate with us through into our realm, and they were just trying over and over different ways to try to get a working and breathable longevity style of life into our world. That's kind of how Zur became the emissary, because Zur was this final infusion of their world and our world. So they've done it before with Lavinia, for example, and the whole situation with her and Dolan Caro. Maybe her story will come up. And then they've also done it with the Emissary of the Nine, which was the former girlfriend of the Drifter, former Guardian. And so it's a lot of opportunity for them to explore that. I don't think that they will. I don't really have high hopes based on all the stuff that we've experienced recently with Bungie, but I hope this season is going to be at least as good as the season of the Witch. I don't like that they called it the season of the Wish, because when you're trying to abbreviate them, it's SOTW is season of the Witch, SOTW is season of the Wish, and so that's gonna suck for my YouTube titles and for abbreviations. But it is what it is. I'm just gonna have to do SOT Wish, and and just those four additional characters, just kind of let those fall where they fall. But thanks very much again for watching the end of the video. Again, I always, at the end of the video, want to make sure I thank my new subscribers. I always get a few here and there per video, so thanks very much if you've recently joined. And thanks for everybody that's currently a subscriber that has stuck around with me. We're currently getting close to that 1,000 mark, and I'm trying to get to that 1,000 mark so that we can kind of be a full-fledged YouTube channel. and I believe we'll get there probably by the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year. And this next season, there's going to be plenty of videos to put out. So hopefully, you guys stick around and stay for the guides, because I'm going to be making sure that anything I find that's of useful value to you guys next season, whether it be builds, whether it be how to use the armor, I am for sure going to go through the synergy between the armor and the builds. I'm for sure going to go through guides for everything that I complete, whether it be the dungeon on day one, whether it be new setups that we can take into the raids and have a lot of fun, stuff like that. I'm going to try to do. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and it's going to likely be the new season video and some of the new seasonal missions. And then from there, we'll go into the guides on how to interact with all those new things. And don't forget that I believe it's the 30th, which is going to be a Thursday, to jump into Destiny and test out the Fireteam Finder, so that we can kind of see how that works and get a good little taste of it, put it through its stress test, and see if it's even ready or even viable for launch in the following expansion. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks very much again for watching the end. Take it easy.